Last week, I talked about the toughest weight class in college wrestling, with some honorable mentions scattered in there. And it was a lot of fun diving into all 10 weight classes. If you haven't checked that video out, I highly recommend you do. But if you are ahead of the game and have already seen that video, or simply don't care about that video, stick around for this one where I cover potentially the deepest weight class, or maybe just the weirdest weight class in NCAA wrestling. The regular season came to an end this past weekend, and with all the chips down, I still stand with the fact that every weight class will be entertaining come March, and I truly believe 165 is still the toughest. But if 125 and 165 had a baby, 157 would be that child. Mathematically, returning All-Americans will be out of the running come the national parade. Non-All-Americans are projected to place very high. Wrestlers who are dubbed washed up are making huge comebacks, and some of these matches are so brutally close that they border on being boring to watch. All these details combined make up for maybe not the toughest, but easily one of the most entertaining weight classes to follow all season. And I'm here to fill you in on all the fun. So strap in, wrestling fans, because my name is Tanner. Welcome back to TrueTan Wrestling. And remember, if you have your own thoughts or opinions, or I miss your favorite 157 wrestler, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, along with hitting those like and subscribe buttons while you're down there. Now let's nosedive in to the deepest weight class in college wrestling. At the tippy top of the list, we have to start with Levi Haines of Penn State, who in the beginning of the season looked a little below his mean after taking some time off to recover from an injury. Several people also thought it could have been weight related, since there was a lot of rumors after last year's NCAAs that he was bumping up to 165. However, once he entered into the Big Ten schedule, he started to return to form. He had a tight match with Will Lewan of Michigan, but who doesn't at this point? We'll get back to you, Mr. Lewan, don't you worry. But back to Levi Haines. He also had a tight match with Chase Saldate of Michigan State, which was very controversial at the time. However, the returning NCAA runner-up really started turning it on after those two nail-biter performances up in Michigan. He would tech fall Michael North of Maryland, Major Isaac Wilcox of Ohio State, and Major Jared Franick of Iowa, who are both very hard to score on, along with beating Peyton Robb 10-3, who he had very close matches with prior. At this point, he really looks like the clear-cut #1 guy at the weight, but there is another undefeated wrestler who actually has some history with Levi Haines. Vincent Zerbin of Northern Colorado, who is currently 19-0 in the season with an 80% bonus rate, along with the Southern Scuffle title this year. He also has one of the only wins over Haines in his entire career, beating him 8-6 in overtime at the Binghamton Open last season. Now, from the few moments I've watched Zerbin, he's looked pretty dang good. He has a win over Saldate by a greater margin than Levi Haines, along with taking out Daniel Cardenas of Stanford, who is another top 8 guy. The only down for him is his lack of other quality wins. He has wins over guys that I'm sure will be national qualifiers this year, and like I said, his bonus rate is very high, so it's not like he's going toe-to-toe with these fringe qualifiers. With all that said though, I'm still very excited to see his postseason run, and I hope he can give Northern Colorado another All-American or maybe even another finalist. And I still think there's a lot to talk about within the Big Ten at this weight class, so I think I'm going to transition back over to there. Starting with Blockus, an All-American at 149 last year for the Minnesota Gophers, and Franick, an All-American for North Dakota State last year, but is now a fan favorite for Iowa. Blockus had a weird start for Minnesota this season, losing to George Mason's DJ McGee, who really isn't that bad. I mean, he lost a teamer in overtime, so maybe a sleeper pick in March, but back to Blockus. I think he is really adjusting well to 157, taking out Franick and Robb in back-to-back matches this season. Unfortunately, he won't see Levi Haines until potentially the Big Ten Finals, but I would argue Blockus is the easy 2 seed heading into conference weekend, with Franick of Iowa more than likely being the 3 seed unless some coaches seed a little differently, which you get with these deep weight classes. With that said though, moving down my projected seeds, which aren't official by any means, we have Peyton Robb for the Cornhuskers, who had a really weird stretch of the season after winning CKLV. He will lose 4 matches in a row, the first being in Northern Iowa's Ryder Downey, who's actually super solid in my opinion. Jared Franick took him out in the closing seconds of the match. Blockus would win 12-6 over Robb, and then topping it all off, he would get pinned by true freshman Joey Blaze of Purdue, before taking a week off for the Cornhuskers, which ultimately has seemed to really help him gather his things together and sort of return to form. He would get his second win over Michigan 2-time All-American Will Lewan, who we'll talk about right now. Oh boy, where do you even start with this guy? Well, for starters, he doesn't do a lot of that, what do you call it? Oh yeah, scoring. And to be honest, at this point, it works for him, and he wins a lot of high quality matches. But when you lose a lot of matches 2-1 on the other guy just pushing the pace and taking half attempts to get stall calls, I feel like it's a faulty strategy. But hey, he's a two-time All-American off this strategy, and I'm not, so let's see if he can go for his third. The final 157 in the Big Ten that I want to talk about before we start jumping all over the map is Brayton Lee, the former Minnesota Gopher, who's now an Indiana Hoosier. He is currently 8-0 on the season, with his coaches being very selective with him, it seems. His best win is probably against Will Lewan, and he won off of, you guessed it, stall calls. Overall, though, I'm really happy to see Brayton Lee sort of back to form, it feels like, and at least healthy. Because last year, he really looked like a shell of his former self and just wasn't healthy. Now, to be honest, I could talk about close to everyone in the Big Ten. It's just super deep, but it almost hurts them from a seed perspective, considering every other conference is also loaded at the weight, and a lot of them already got their Big Ten wins earlier in the season. For example, Rob and Luan are even ranked in the top 8 for most rankers, and they're both multiple time All-Americans. And right now in the Big Ten, there's a lot of guys just knocking each other off, so it normally results in some lower than usual seeds. We obviously have Zurban in the Big 12, but Ja'Cory Teamer of Arizona State is another wild card this year at the weight class, with some amazing results like winning Midlands and taking second at CKLV. He did lose to Rob at CKLV, but definitely still in the balance to make the national finals. Teamer's only other loss was to Cody Chittum of Iowa State during their duel, who has had another roller coaster year, beating some really good dudes like Teamer, but also falling to some other guys who, in my opinion, are also pretty dang good. Like Downey of UNI is probably his worst loss, and Downey's pretty dang good too. I was actually really looking forward to Downey versus Mahler this weekend, who is another multiple time All-American who is not projected to place this season. But I guess Missouri was sick or something, but I really don't want to get into that this video, so it just didn't happen. Then there is, of course, everyone's favorite newcomer, Meyer Shapiro of Cornell, who has looked very dangerous ever since his performance at CKLV, where he failed to place. I think Shapiro has the ability to All-American this year for sure, but I'm not really sure if he's ready to make the finals or win the tournament just yet. However, with that said, I've been proven wrong before by other very young Cornell All-Stars, so we'll see. One of Shapiro's losses was to Daniel Cardenas of Stanford, who we did mention earlier in the video. I think Cardenas will be seated very high again like last year during his freshman campaign, with a very similar season to Chittum, honestly. Lots of really good wins, but also some losses to some dudes who are still very good, just a little better than him at the time. Then I guess to wrap this all up, I'll talk a little ACC action. In Bryce Andonian and Ed Scott, everyone's favorite ACC wildcards. Of all the returning All-Americans, I think Ed Scott and Bryce Andonian could potentially get hurt the hardest come the season in March. If Andonian wins ACCs, or maybe even takes second, I think he might be alright. He's just missed all the ACC duels, but still has a nice record of 14-4 with some impressive wins in there. Ed Scott, on the other hand, has yes won some great matches like over Andonian at CKLV, but he's also lost to some non-All-American or heck non-national qualifier wrestlers. I think if Scott fails to win the ACC conference, his seed and placement could really be hurt, especially for a returning All-American at the weight class. Which, to be honest, if Andonian and Scott get some more than unfavorable seeds, I might be all for it because this weight class is already deep enough, let alone those two landmines being seeded like 16th or 15th or something like that. In closing, there was a lot of wrestlers I wanted to get to, but we'd be here for hours considering we are talking about the deepest weight class in college wrestling. So if I missed your favorite wrestler, please let me know in the comment section below. Along with hitting those like and subscribe buttons if you agreed with some of my takes in the video. Now I know I said I couldn't talk about every 157, but enjoy me go rapid fire as I talk about just a few guys that I think deserve a mention, but I couldn't fit in the main portion of the video. For starters, there's Teague Travis of Oklahoma State. Super talented, kinda got worked by Frantic, but has wins over guys like Brock Mahler. Payne Keller, some Mac and Ohio love, my favorite, but has a win over Ed Scott this year. Tommy Askey of Appalachian State, always tough in the SoCon. Excited to see if he can knock off any of these really good guys very early in the tournament. Trevor Chumley, Northwestern's best chance at a national qualifier this year and maybe All-American. His wins over guys like Shapiro, which he did at Vegas. Isaac Wilcox of Ohio State, great fit after the Gallagher season-ending injury, and he looks a lot better down at 157 from 165. Then of course there's Joey Blaze of Purdue, who I've mentioned a little bit in the video, but he has wins over Ed Scott and Penn Peyton Robb in Nebraska, just a little inconsistent for a true freshman. And now with all that said, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Take care, everybody.